Hey, welcome to CS Connect. I'm here with Pastor Pat. We just finished the weekend, and this is Pastor Chat. Pat, what an incredible weekend. Just finished up. We're doing it here in the auditorium.
Yeah, I like
this. Feels
this.
weird.
I like this, yeah. All the people out here.
You said a statement that I want to start with. Let the master, I wrote it down. Yeah. Let the mind of your master be the master of your mind.
Yeah.
Let the mind of your master be the master of your mind. Yep. I want to see how many times can you say that in a row fast without messing up.
Okay.
You should be at least three times, right?
Okay, here we go. Let the mind of the master be the master of your mind. Let the mind of the master be the master of your mind. Let the mind of the master be the master of your mind.
There you go, three times fast. You had it down. You kept saying it in the message, and I'm like, I'm going to write that down just to unpack that.
Yeah.
What an incredible thought. The mind of our God. Let that be in control of our mind.
It's such a bold claim, right?
It is a bold claim, And I've been looking forward to this weekend. And you had so many wonderful things. I want to start first with, you talked about us losing our mind.
Yeah.
Sometimes when we get into scripture, we hear something that just seems so upside down. It just seems not intuitive.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah.
Because I think someone who's going, hey, I want to be of a sound mind, the first thing they're not expecting to hear is, lose your mind.
Lose
right?
your mind. Yeah.
Talk about that.
Well, I've often referred to the gospel as the upside down, backwards, inside out gospel, because there's so many things that Jesus says that just is so counterintuitive. Like, if you want to live, you have to die. If you want to be first, you have to be last. Or in this case, lose your mind.
Yeah.
But it's connected to this bold claim made in 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 16 that says, we have the mind of Christ. Yeah. And part of our problem is that when we let our lives run by our mind, that's where we get in our messes, right?
Yeah.
You get so much of our stuff.
That's incredible. You talked about that a little bit as you talked about the internal vows that we begin to form as we're growing up. Yep. And at first, as you started talking about that, I mean, I've heard that, right? And I've thought about that, but then I really just started processing in my own life. Like, what was that? What was that for me growing up? Can you first give us like just a basic explanation? What is that internal vow? What does that mean for someone as they're thinking about that?
Well, every human being has made them. And the problem is we don't consciously make them. It's not at 6 years old, you sat down and you said, I'm gonna make this internal vow. But you did subconsciously make a vow that you needed. Maybe it was a survival mechanism and it worked for you for a long time, but it will eventually not work for you. So for me, I shared mine. It worked for me until I was in my early 40s, and then I crashed and burned because of that internal vow. So there's all kinds of them. You know, one of them that I mentioned was that someone may go, I'm not going to let someone hurt me again, so they put up a wall. Yeah. They didn't even realize it, but they made an internal vow, I'll never be hurt again. But now they're never going to have a good relationship again. Or maybe an internal vow may be that that conflict was uncomfortable for me, so I'm not going to deal with conflict.
Yeah. You know, as I was listening to you talk about that, I think for a lot of people who are watching today, probably there was a process or a journey for them to start to believe this in their life, right? Maybe for some, it was a one-time moment. For others, it was repeated environmental things that were happening in their life or repeated failures in relationships.
Sometimes those are successful.
That's right.
Like it was a survival mechanism.
That's right.
So I'm not going to let anybody hurt me again. So I didn't get hurt for a long time.
Had to back off. Right. It's when we carry them into a place that is unhealthy.
Yes.
Talk about, as people start looking internally and processing that and saying, God, help me figure that out. What are some things in our past that might have influenced or caused us to create those internal vows?
Yeah. Hurt. Hurt hurts, right?
Yeah.
Pain is painful. None of us like it, emotionally, physically. So most of the time, there was something that was uncomfortable. There's something that was painful. There's something that hurt, and we wanted to avoid that. That makes sense as human beings.
It's like touching the hot stove.
Yeah. I'm not going to do that again. That hurts.
Right.
So again, I love that illustration. That hurt. I won't do that again.
That's right.
So something hurt us emotionally, and we said, I'm going to do this so that doesn't happen again. And again, it worked. That's what makes it so dangerous. It worked maybe for 10 years or 15 years or 30 years. But eventually there's a subtle lie to it that will end up hurting us.
Yeah. Help us think through that as we try to look into our lives internally and we're looking for that subtle lie that's impacting our life today. How are we going to discover that? How are we going to find that? And how are we going to bring that into a conversation with God?
Well, I'm so glad you asked that because that's the core of the message. I don't think we can do that very well without the Spirit of God. That's what Paul was saying in 1 Corinthians 2, verse 16. We have the mind of Christ. Yeah. And in that chapter, he's saying there's these mysteries that have been around before time began, and no one can understand those mysteries outside of the Spirit of God. I think there's lies that we have believed as human beings, individually, maybe different, that unless the Spirit of God helps us unpack those, we'll never understand those. So that's why I encourage people, and it's gonna take courage to go to God and say, God, show me these, reveal these to me. That's why I don't think it's not gonna happen in an hour. You may have to wrestle with this for a few days or a few weeks.
Man, you have me excited. I mean, how cool would it be for us to begin to unpack those and then apply the truth that God has and replace the lie with that truth?
Oh, man.
Right? For that one that's hurting, that one who has lived a sheltered, isolated life. What truth does God have for that person to replace the lie they believing over those years, right?
And this is what Paul says in Romans 12 too. Transformation comes from renewing the mind. If we allow God to do that, people that are gonna do that over these next hours, weeks, and so they're gonna see their lives transformed.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Isn't that exciting?
It's exciting. I love it. Well, incredible message, Pat. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for tuning in today. We hope this just is a huge help to you. We hope you'll continue just to discover, talk to God about this. Let God show you some things that are gonna bring new life into your day. Thanks for tuning in.